Okay, look, I don't have the budget. Otherwise, this whole place would be decorated, but it's not. So let's just pretend that it's Halloween themed back here, okay? So let's talk about some creepy things. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, or should I say unwelcome? Would that be more spooky, or in the spirit rather? Yeah, spirit, speaking of, we are in October. That means we have to give you guys some sort of creepy video to go along with the theme of the month. We've done it before where we did like the creepiest anime that you can watch to kind of get you in the mood for, you know, spooky time, and I'll link it somewhere around here, you can check it out. But today specifically I want to talk about moments in anime that made me go, hey, that's a little creepy, I feel a little way, I'm uncomfortable. So that's what I'm gonna do for you, and hopefully you guys can watch some of these moments on your own if you haven't seen them already and feel some sort of way, the way that I did. So let's get into it. Okay, so anime as a whole doesn't have too many things to pull from as far as like the horror genre goes. Oh, I guess it kind of depends on your level of horror and which you can take and which you can't take. For me, it's a little higher, so some of the moments that I you know, were looking through, I was like, hey, that wasn't that creepy, or hey, I didn't really think that was scary. But the ones that I have here specifically are just ones that kind of make you feel a little twisty turny. So they're not going to be like overtly scary, like, oh man, I gotta, you know, hit the lights. They're gonna be more like on the eerie and creepy side. All right, so starting it off is going to be a moment from Inuyashiki Last Hero. If you haven't seen it, it's an Amazon Prime exclusive, I believe, but I'm sure you could find it somewhere. Anyway, it's a pretty crazy show altogether. There's a lot of gore and themes of violence in this show, so if you're into that, that's what the show is going to be kind of about. The moment that I'm talking about specifically, you may have seen it online because it is one of those viral clips where you see it, you're like, oh, this is weird. It's pretty much the main antagonist of the show, Hiro. Funny, he's an antagonist, but his name's Hiro. There's a moment in this show where he, for some reason, is just bored, I guess, walking on the street. He enters a home, does a home invasion, and there's a family of, I believe, 4, and he ends up killing each member of this family. The way he does so is he's been endowed with powers from like aliens, and he can just pretty much use like telekinesis. So the moment that I'm talking about, he goes, BAM! And shoots people with telekinetic powers. So first he starts off with, I believe it's the mom. He walks in and goes, pow, 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 lights her up. Then he goes to a bathroom and he finds a son and his dad bathing together, and he's like, bow, and then the dad falls on the son and ends up suffocating the son, and they both die. And then the moment that is probably the most vital part of this is he finds the girl, the oldest daughter of the house, and he sits next to her. She's on some stairs or whatever, and he's like, hey, why are you crying? And she's like, what do you mean you just, you know, killed my family? She didn't tell her all that, but basically that's how it goes. He's pretty much like not knowing what just happened, or he's not just like, he doesn't care what just happened. He's kind of ignoring that, and he just sees a girl crying, and he's like, hey, do you read manga? Because that's what he asks everybody. And he finds out that she does, and he's like, hey, what do you watch? And she's talking about One Piece. She's a One Piece fan. So they're trying to have a conversation about that, but the girl is too distracted by the fact that her family just died. So he's like, hey, why do you care about that? We're talking about One Piece right now. And he ends up just killing her because she's freaking out, and he's like annoyed with the whole situation. And that just shows you how cold-blooded this man is. And when I first saw this, I was like, he just did that just because he was bored, and I guess because he could, but also she was talking about One Piece. So I guess if you're a One Piece fan, you should really watch what you say around people, because it could end up bad for you. But yeah, the whole show itself just makes me feel very like anxious, and it's very like raw, and shows no remorse for its characters in the universe. Definitely would recommend watching it. This is probably like the creepiest scene, but it's not the weirdest scene. It gets a lot weirder in this show. So yeah, Hiro from Inuyashiki Last Hero, that is definitely earning a spot on my creepiest scenes to watch to get you in the mood. Okay, so now I want to talk about the Promised Neverland. Everyone who watches the show knows that only season 1 is good. Season 2 kind of shits the bed. And if you watch this channel, or you've been a long-time subscriber, you know how I feel about it. But more specifically, I want to talk about season 1, and this moment that I'm talking about specifically is from episode 1. That's right. If you want to watch a show and get to the creepy part right away, it's going to be from episode 1. If you haven't seen the show, I recommend it. Again, like I said, the first season only. It is a thriller, suspense type show. So if you want to have like some sort of like thrills for the night, and it's only like 12 episodes, so you can totally knock it out in one night. Also, spoilers, by the way. A lot of these are going to contain spoilers. I don't know why I didn't mention that earlier, but there's going to be some spoilers in here, so this does have a big spoiler alert. Although, like I mentioned, it does get revealed in episode 1. Anyway, the moment I'm talking about specifically is the whole moment that we were leading up to the entire first episode. You find out that these kids are in this world where they're pretty much walled off from society, but they're growing up to be groomed to be like smart and educated, and they're gifted basically. And you don't know why that they're being groomed, or why they're gifted, or why that they're sheltered from everybody else in the world, until the very end you find out that these kids are not being groomed for society to be functioning members. They're being groomed to be eaten by people, not people. I guess I should say demons. They're being groomed as cattle. They are the grade A top choice meat for these demons. They want to eat their brains, and these children, the smarter you are, the better you taste, because they eat your brain specifically. So if you have a big brain, you are going to get big eaten. And the scene specifically at the end that we see, it's sad because it's a little girl who was part of this household, and she's getting adopted, and we find out that she's actually getting chosen to go be eaten. So she says her goodbyes to everybody. Everyone's like, oh, we love you so much, we hope for the best for you and all this stuff. And she leaves behind her teddy bear, and the main character finds it, and he's like, oh no, she left her teddy bear, let me go catch up to them and give her her bear. And as soon as he catches up to her, he sees the demons, and the demons grab this little girl and begin to eat her brain and just throw her body inside the back of like a pickup truck. And it is just like the grossest look on her face. You're like, oh, this little girl just is dead like that? And yet she is dead like that. She got her brain eaten, and the rest of the household members are next. And it's just like the coolest reveal, because you're like, oh, that's the twist of the show. You see, you're wondering the whole time, like, hey, what's going on with this place? Why are we in it? What's the bigger picture? And that is the bigger picture. Now our kids who are in the house have to find a way to get out of this place, because you don't want to deal with that. And seeing it, I was like, man, this is kind of creepy, but also very cool, this twist. Okay, so sticking within that suspense thriller genre, I have Death Note, and if you've seen it, you're probably wondering, hey, that's not scary at all. The most that we get as far as scary goes are the Shinigami, which are, gods of death. Yeah, that is pretty creepy, but Halloween's not all about just gore and horror. There's also different elements of it, and in it are some of the best films that are in the thriller genre. So specifically, the scene that I'm talking about is the scene Naomi versus Light. Now, this whole time, Light is trying to kill this woman because she's connected to a police officer, and he needs to get rid of her because she's kind of like a witness to him, and she's kind of on to him. So the whole episode, it's him following her and having a conversation with her, and they're doing mental chess and gymnastics, and they're trying to figure out, like, are you Kira? And he's like, do you know that I'm Kira? And if you do, how do I get you to not think that of me and give me your name so I can put your name in my book and kill you? So the whole episode is like a whole just like suspense situation, and you're like watching it the whole time. You're on the edge of your seat. You're like, how's this gonna go? Is he gonna get caught by this woman like out of nowhere, or is she gonna get killed? And it is one of the coolest scenes in anime for me, because it was like one of the first times I'd seen a show that wasn't specifically like fighting with hands. This was fighting with minds, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. It actually was the first episode I'd seen of Death Note. Fun fact. It was on Adult Swim, I believe, and it was just that scene, and I was like, wait, this is cool. They're just talking back and forth, and it's like detective mystery, but it's also like edge of my seat thriller. And by the end of it, spoilers, like I mentioned earlier, she ends up giving him her name off of, like, she ends up trusting him because he's pretty much like, hey, I'm the son of the head of police, and if you give me your name, I can help you, solve the murder of your husband. And she gives it to him, she trusts him, and it's just the creepiest scene where she just hands him his name or whatever, and you see Ryuk in the background just laughing like, oh, you sly dog, you got her name. And he does get her name and puts her name in the book, and the episode ends with her, walking towards the gallows, basically, of her hanging herself. And very sad scene, because, her husband doesn't get justice, and she doesn't get justice either. She killed herself in the world that they're in, and everyone's like, oh, she must have just killed herself because she felt, bad about her husband. And that wasn't the case at all. The whole time she was fighting a thrilling battle with Light, and it was something else. Side note, I am sick, or getting over being sick, so if my voice sounds different, that's why. If it sounds more sultry, that's not my normal voice. I'm sorry, I don't want to catfish you. But yeah, speaking of catfish, I guess that's a good segue. Perfect Blue is what I want to talk about now, Satoshi Kon's debut film. Is it his debut? I believe it is his debut. His thriller, psychological horror masterpiece. Now, if you've seen the movie, recently I've seen it for the first time ever in my life, actually, a couple weeks ago. It was in theaters, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, you know that this movie is just like a whole trip, and your the whole time you're not really knowing what's happening. You think you know what's happening, and then it twists, and you're like, oh, this is what's happening. And then it twists again, and you're like, oh, is this what's happening? I think. And you just can't get comfortable the entire time you're watching it because you don't know what's going on. You think you do, but you don't. And anyway, the specific scene that I want to talk about is towards the end when the main character, I forget her name. It's I don't want to look it up. It's going to take a lot of time. Anyway, the main character starts revealing or getting revealed to her what has been happening to her. This whole time she thought she was going crazy, but then we find out that actually it was her like agent who was pretty much orchestrating all this stuff that's happening to her and making her feel like she's going crazy because all these crazy things keep happening, like people around her keep dying, and she's like, is it me the whole time? No, it's this person this whole time. And she's seeing hallucinations of herself as an idol because she was a former idol and she gave that career up to be an actress. And she's seeing this perfect version of herself come to her and tell her things like, oh, you're not, a true artist anymore because you gave up this life to be an actress, and you're pretty much, you're not shit, basically. And the scene is where she's chasing herself throughout Tokyo, and it's just like a floating little version of herself, and the whole time she's trying to catch it. And then we get revealed that it's actually not even her that's she's chasing the the agent that she was following the whole time, or her agent, I guess. And it was like her best friend, and you didn't see it coming the way it happened. You're like, oh damn, this person. It kind of reminded me of Selena. If you guys have seen Selena, like the president of the fan club, how she was like crazy for Selena. That's kind of what it felt like. Her agent felt like the president of Selena's fan club because she was like crazy about her as a person, as an idol, and she wanted to keep her perfect. And throughout the movie, we see her become not perfect because the things that she's doing to further her career. And yeah, it's just like a creepy reveal, but also like a scene because it's just like the music's quiet and it's playing like at a weird pace, and she's just like chasing after herself, and it just makes you feel weird. You're like, what is happening right now? This is the weirdest thing, and it's just like a quiet emptiness that's happening while she's following it, because like the streets of Tokyo are empty and she's just running through it, and like it's just a weird scene. It made me feel weird when I was watching it. I was like, this is a fever dream basically. And yeah, the whole movie feels pretty much like that. It's just like as things are getting revealed to you, you're like, oh, this is just weird, I don't know what's happening. And by the end of it, you're like, oh, okay. And it's definitely a movie you have to reflect on, and a scene you reflect on and you think about it, and you're like, oh, okay, that was cool because of this, and I feel this way because of that. And yeah, it's just a truly masterpiece in the truest sense, and it grew on me, and that scene itself, though, stuck with me, and I was like, this is creepy. I don't like this. And finally, the scene that we all know has to be included on one of these lists, the top creepiest moments in anime. It's going to be actually two of them from the same show, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, that's right. Of course, we all know the Nina Tucker scene where she gets turned into a chimera. If you don't know, a chimera is pretty much just like a fusion of two things. And the father of this little girl, Nina, she ends up fusing his daughter with a dog. And we get revealed in the show that he successfully did it, I guess, if that's what you want to see. And Ed and Alphonse hear like a whimpering and a crying, and they open the door and they see Nina as a dog looking at them, and she's like, help me. And you're like, oh, what is that? And it's her, but as a dog, and she has like long hair, and it's just like, it's so creepy, and it still to this day creeps me out, because when I see it, I'm like, oh man, that's just not right. And it's just become a meme within the culture of anime that it's just like, oh man, this is like as low as it gets. Your own daughter, you made her fuse with a dog because you wanted to further your science for whatever reason. And yeah, it's just like the punishment he gets is not enough. You want to like really see this man go through it, because he took this little girl, this little innocent girl, and made her just turn into a dog. And it's just nasty. But also in the same show, for me, an equally creepy scene is the failed transmutation that the boys do at the beginning, where they try to bring their mom back, and that's how this whole story gets launched to Equivalent Exchange. They have to give up their arm and their legs and everything just to try to bring their mom back, because their mom has passed away. So through alchemy, they try to revive her, and they fail to do so, but they do revive something. What they revive is the evil soul of their mother, and she's just like gross and slimy, and she's looking at them like, oh, why did you bring me back? And it just feels like they reached in the depths of like the afterlife and pulled her out without her wanting to be there. And it was just like, oh my god. And seeing these boys just look at her like, we want to be happy that we brought you back, but also like, you're not our mom, but also you are. And it's just like, ugh, nasty. And it's funny that Full Metal Alchemist has those themes in it, because if you watch the show, it isn't really stay like that, or it doesn't stay like creepy like that. It becomes something different, and that's, I guess, why it's such a great show, is because it changes its tone so much throughout the show, and you forget these moments that they had in the earlier part of the show where it's like, oh man, this was like really horrific. Like, sorry, I had to pause for a second because the way I said horrific, I said horrific. That's not the way you say that word. You say it horrific. Anyway, yes, Fullmetal Alchemist. This is the top spot for me as far as creepiness in anime goes, and yeah, it's just not natural. That's all I can say. Not natural. All right, so that's gonna be all the creepiest twisted moments from anime. I know there's not a lot of them, and it is kind of sad that we don't have a lot more in the genre of horror as far as anime goes. But the scenes that we do get in the shows that we get them in, it's worth it, and it's a lasting effect that it has on you, and it definitely had one on me. And the plus side about all these shows is that you can watch all of these shows, and all these moments specifically come from good shows. They're not just going to be like one-off moments like, hey, this show sucked, but it had one cool part. No. All these shows that I mentioned are all really good. If you haven't seen them, some of them, of course, you have seen, but if you haven't seen all these, I do recommend them. They will get you in the spirit for Halloween. They do make you feel weird in feelings, and that's all Halloween really is about at the end of the day, is feeling weird in feelings, and that's creepiness. And yeah, hopefully you guys like these, and hopefully you guys have more moments that we can talk about down below in the comment section. I would appreciate that. Also, subscribe if you haven't. My last video got me like 10 subscribers. It was cool. So hi, new people, I appreciate you for being here. I really do enjoy having you here. Hopefully we can continue to grow, and if you know, want to help that out, you can subscribe or share the video or like it and all this stuff to help me grow as a channel, because that would be pretty cool. And that would be my treat from you guys, and I'll give you guys a trick. Watch, ready?